Hi everyone and welcome to the panel discussion organized by ACCA Sri Lanka in relation to the International Women's Day 2022. I am truly delighted to be joined by four eminent panelists, three ACCA members in different stages of their career, and one representing one of the largest employers of actually accountants, let alone ACCA members in Sri Lanka. So I'll do a very quick introduction to all of them. They are Google search away in terms of their, full career profile, but I'll just do the honors in terms of their name, organization, and designation. Joining me first from, youngest member onwards is Yashora Kodagoda. She's the manager of finance and business planning at Chevron Lubricants. Welcome, Yashora. Thank you for joining us today. Nirosha Indravasan, who is a senior manager, Treasury Back Office at HNB, and who has joined ACCA later in her career. Welcome, Nirosha.
Thanks, Imran.
Moiz Rehmanji is the CFO of Hela Clothing and a very passionate ACCA member. Welcome, Moiz.
Thank you. Thanks, Imran. Good to be here.
And last but not least, my very, very good friend, Shanaka Fernando. He's a Senior General Manager, Human Resources at WNS Global Services Private Limited. Welcome again, Shanaka.
Thank you, Imran, and thank you, ACCA, for the opportunity.
Okay. So what we're going to do is we have some very interesting questions around, careers, about, glass ceiling, about how we can overcome barriers. And ultimately, ACCA has made a commitment to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Out of the 17, I think they've identified about 9, that they are very passionate about promoting, and they see opportunity within their framework and their global network to do so. And I think one of them is obviously SDG 5, which talks about gender equality and inclusion. And we are truly delighted to feature our members in this panel discussion. So I'm going to start off with you, Yashora. You're an up-and-coming finance professional, and in your view, do you think Sri Lanka has created a safe working environment, particularly for working women?
Imran, I personally believe that the safety of working environment for Sri Lankan women is a subject that has always been kept away from the limelight, right? When you look at factors such as skill gaps, safety and security concerns at work, on the way to workplaces, as well as on the way back home, along with the imbalance that can exist in managing a balance between the work and personal lives, and also the social cultural norms, right? I believe have contributed to making it quite difficult for women to find a niche in their workplaces. And even whether we like to admit it or not, I believe the questionable safety for women in Sri Lanka, especially at the workplaces, have also been reinforced time to time through certain voluntary and involuntary discrimination incidents that we have witnessed. And in that context, I think even archaic legislations have been a significant obstacle. Just to quote a recent example, we all witnessed this in the event where Sri Lanka's first ever female DIG was removed from her post following a petition that stated the word women is not included in the regulations pertaining to promotions. And that, unfortunately, is in the same country which appointed the first ever female prime minister in the world. Speaking from a personal experience point of view, of course, Imran, I consider myself as blessed because I've had the opportunity to work for several multinational organizations, at least so far in my career, right? And those places have always prioritized the safety of women in their workplaces. But as a nation, from a holistic outlook, I believe we still got a long way to go in terms of providing a safe and a secure working environment for all women in general.
Thanks, Yashora. Very honest and frank, perspective, which I find very, very refreshing, because, as you said, we don't discuss things like personal safety and also the archaic law that is prevalent in the country as well. And I think we will delve into this more as we go on with the panel discussion. I want to come to Nirosha because you've been an experienced banking professional. I think you've been here in banking for about 27 years, but for now. But I think you are new to ACCA, joined as a mature member. You have commitments in life and some of the barriers that obviously Ashura mentioned as well. How have you managed, your career with the other commitments in life as well, family, and also the barriers that you have faced?
Imran, I wouldn't say it's easy to manage family work while studying. And I have 2 kids, one is 17 and one is 6. But nothing is impossible if you have the determination and the courage and a supportive people like behind you, who are the family, most importantly the family, and the superiors and your colleagues. I count more than 27 years in banking. I joined the bank as a school leaver. So during my career, I thought I should gain some financial qualification as well to enhance my knowledge. So that's the reason I started ACCA. It's a tough journey, I would say, but luckily ACCA was offering 4 exams for a year. So I started doing 1 exam at a time. Then I could manage time and also can manage my work and the family as well. And I had my superior, the former superior was a fellow ACCA, and he actually motivated me and inspired me to complete my exams. And I have the wonderful team at office. They really supported me, and my biggest supporter was my husband. He actually did all of the children's work during the weekend because I went for classes during the weekend, or I was studying at coffee shops from morning till evening before the exams. And I actually, my message to anyone as mature as me is don't ever think that it's late to enhance your knowledge. Because when I finished ACCA a couple of years ago, the retirement age in private sector was 55. Now it became 60, and we never know whether it will become 65. So enhancing your knowledge is not a waste of money or time at all. So that's the message I have to give, Imran.
Thank you, Nirosha. I think one of the key, pillars to overcome the barriers is actually a very important supporting network. And I think whether you're a female or a male, I think that supporting network is a critical component as well. And also to allude to what you said, I think yes, I think we are looking at 65 really, as a retirement age, whether the private sector likes it or not, because the population is aging, and so it's never too late to start a qualification. So to say that would really help you move up, give you career mobility. And I think that is something that we need to explore further as well. Moiz, you're a very prominent ACCA member in Sri Lanka. ACCA as a global accounting body, the largest in the world, is really committed towards UN Sustainable Development Goals. Very briefly, could you outline the general overview of how ACCA looks, and its commitments towards the UN Sustainable Development Goals?
Sure, Imran. Okay, now if you look at starting from the UN standpoint, its Secretary General announced this being the decade of fulfilling these commitments towards Sustainable Development Goals, right? So that we can execute, so that the world can execute on these by 2030. And what I see is that ACCA is definitely showing its commitment, demonstrating it as well, by doing its share on what it can do to drive the same SDG throughout its network. When I say its network, I'm not merely referring to the membership, but also the wider community, to its students, to its staff, to its lecturers, and not just within Sri Lanka, but outside in the global network itself, leveraging on that full ecosystem. And the seminar that we're having right now is a case in point of that commitment that ACCA makes. And it's good to see that ACCA is also on that on that wagon and, peddling the same, the trend that the world is moving into. And there is no better standard benchmark to follow suit than what UN has set through its GD goals.
Thanks, Moise. And I think we're going to explore some of these later on, the commitment for EWR companies towards those and also gender equality as well. I'll come to you, Shanaka. Now, WNS is by far one of the largest employers of finance professionals in Sri Lanka. I'm not very sure whether they are the largest employer of ACCA members, but probably are. And my question to you is, how are women represented across WNS, and what are your actions in terms of gender inclusion and equity?
Thank you, Imran. So WNS, I would say WNS is one of the very organization where we want to promote, not only promote, but also we show them what kind of organization, particularly we are in the BPM industry. If you look at from the BPM industry where we have to work different work shifts, different clienteles. So it's not like a traditional organization. We start at 9 o'clock and we leave at 5 o'clock. So when you come to that, I take pride being one of the largest equal opportunity employer in Sri Lanka. And also it's a reflection of our equal gender representation within the WNS company at all levels. I would say that normally if you look at from the industry point of view, normal the ratio is something around maybe less than 30%. I would say WNS maintain well balanced over about 45% of the female employee ratio in WNS, right? We are maintaining, I am with WNS for the last 17 years, and from the day one, and even today I can say that, we are maintaining over 40% of the women representation at all levels in terms of the overall, right? One thing I want to share with you, there are a lot of things that we talk about. In WNS, we have over 1,200 employees. Out of that, we have almost about our 30% of our staff members are over 5 years and above, right? Because the tenure. And that 30% of staff, I can say almost about 38% staff members are representing the female employees. You can see how, as an organization, we promote our female employee workforce to work with us and to develop their careers while working in WNS. So I can tell you that most of the employees I have seen WNS, they have joined WNS, they married in WNS while working, and also they're having kids at WNS, and also they are coming to us to take supporting documents in terms of to put their kids to the schools. And that's the level you can see the journey from the time that they join as an employee, like a teenage or, in terms of the 20 years like that. Today they are with us almost about, we have people in that category. So we would like to highlight WNS shows the healthy percentage of tenured female employees as part of our workforce. And also we are maintaining women-friendly work environment. I'll later explain in terms of what we do. And main point is that we treat these employees irrespective of their gender, their race, which background they're coming, and most importantly, we consider them, they are most valuable employees to the organization. And that's why WNS happily say that, we are a women-friendly organization and also promoting gender equity in this industry, particularly when it comes to the IT BPM industry.
Thank you, Shanakan. And I know there are many alumni of WNS, rising up the corporate ladders in Sri Lanka, including panelist today, Ashura, who is a member who has been at WNS as well. I want to get into the nitty-gritties now. I want to see how your organizations practically, help female employees, advance in their careers. So I'm going to start off again. I'm going to start off with. I'm going to actually change the order a bit. I'm going to start off with Moise. Moise, you're in an industry which has massive representation of women, particularly at where the work really gets done. In terms of Hella Clothing, and I know that, and you want middle management and senior management also to kind of be represented more by the people who are actually doing some of the work, as well. What are the commitments that Hella Clothing has made in terms of UN SDG 5, which is in relation to gender equality and inclusion? as a big employer, with a large number of employees in Sri Lanka and overseas as well.
Okay, so I mean, to answer that, I'll just give you a bit of background. If you take the Hella footprint, we have altogether 18,000 employees, 9,000 in Sri Lanka and 9,000 in Africa, spread across 4 countries, predominantly Kenya, Ethiopia, and we're just starting off in Egypt and Tanzania as well. Right, so gender equality and inclusivity is something that has been in the thrust. It has always been being part of this industry, but something that has been given more thrust in the last 2 years or so. For example, 2019 we signed up for the She Works campaign under the IFC, which is also pretty much in line with this. And to cite a few specific examples, now we have this project that we've launched in Sri Lanka, which is about raising the minimum income of our employees at staff level equal to the country's average GDP per capita. Yeah. So how we go about that is not necessarily just increasing the base salary, and just raising up that fixed income to the individuals, but mentoring and encouraging them to undertake into a lot of entrepreneurship ventures. Right. So for example, in our plants, if we have transport that we source from various third parties, or we have little catering services within our canteen, right, we encourage our own employees to undertake those services that is offered to the plants. And for them to embark on this venture, there is a lot of backing that comes from the organization itself, not just in terms of training development, but actually even introducing them to finances, right? Banks who specialize in this sort of entrepreneurship growth within the country. So we engage those banks and partner with them to have them as part of the developers towards employees who take this initiative, right? So that's an example in Sri Lanka. And if I would take some examples out of Africa, now Kenya, which is our single largest facility from the whole Hella group, and in Kenya, as a population, about 40% of the people do not have ready access to fresh water. So what we have launched is that we give our employees, we donate 20 liters of water per employee per day, right? And in the past 5 years initiative, we have donated altogether 5 million liters of water, right? So that is all a part of empowerment, right? Because things like water, which we take for granted in countries such as ours, in Sri Lanka, right? When you don't have that access in any country, by giving that access, you are actually empowering, right? And the people you're empowering are the people who are working your plant, who are predominantly ladies, right? So that's another example. Then there is something called PACE, which is a training program that we undertake. It's about developing the employees again at various different spheres, from financial management to knowledge growth to professionalism. And that is a program that we are certifying our employees across the entire globe, starting from Sri Lanka all the way to Africa as well. And basically by 2023, which is next year, right, from our total workforce, we plan to have 6,000 employees who will be graduated across this course, right? So that's about the PACE course. There is also in Ethiopia, right? I mentioned the Kenya example, the PACE course that cuts across the entire group. In Ethiopia, just was it last year? Was it year before last? Right, but basically, we received an award which was the most inclusive employer of the year, which was issued by the Ethiopian Center for Disability and Development. Right, so this award is all about recognition of the inclusivity initiatives the company drives. So that's a recognition that we received in that country as well, right? So it's a bunch of initiatives, right? Pocket initiatives that cut across different geographies that we operate in, which caters to the specific requirements in that particular area. But it all finds along, the one common thread, which is about the gender equality and inclusiveness. And we apply that from top to bottom, just sharing couple of examples.
Excellent. Because in Africa, particularly, I think women are given the burden of bringing water, and that kind of removes opportunities for them to do other things in their life, including develop their careers. I think excellent examples, Moise, from Hella, and congratulations to you as well. Yashoda, you mentioned something about you working for multinational, and multinationals have a lot of policies in place in terms of promoting gender equity and so on. So what are the specific examples that Chevron has, that has helped even you in your career?
Thanks, Imran. Imran, I actually want to take a different approach in answering this question. I would like to share my perspective as one of the Chevron employees. And like you said at the beginning, I'm one of the youngest panelists in this forum, and I'm the youngest management team member at Chevron Lanka as well, right? So I really want to share my perspective from that angle. Now, if you take Chevron as an organization, diversity and inclusion is like the first element, right? That means naturally we embrace that in a work culture day in, day out. And we are an organization with an inclusive work environment, which values the uniqueness and the talent of each individual, irrespective of their gender, be it male or be it female. But we consider an individual for their talent and for the attitude that they carry, right? So if I'm to produce the list of services, Imran, that Chevron actually support services that Chevron provides to its employees, I could just go on, right? But in the interest of time, actually, that's why I said at the beginning, I want to share my perspective as one of the Chevron employees, because I think Chevron offers something much more. Right? Being a member of the Chevron family and being a female staff myself, I have always felt valued as an individual, right? In the meetings that I, take part in, whatever the decision that I'm involved in, I have always felt that my opinion is valued, that my opinion is mattered. And most importantly, I think I've always felt, during the short time that I have stayed with Chevron, because, usually the average tenure of any employee in Chevron Lanka is as long as 15 years. That's a testament of the fact that, females stay long as males as well, right? So what I'm saying is the reason why I said compared to that 15 years, I have stayed, shorter period at Chevron. But even during that period, I've always felt that my contribution towards the organization is recognized. And most importantly, I think what I value the most is I have an absolutely harassment-free working environment where I feel very secure to do my job, right? And it's not only that, it's not just that the work environment is harassment-free, but I have the confidence that if I ever come across an incident of harassment, that I could pick up the Chevron hotline and escalate it, and that matter will be handled confidentially and sensitively. That's the confidence and comfort I have being a female staff at Chevron. And then if you look at industry, Imran, we are in the energy industry, right? We are talking about lubricant manufacturing plants. We are talking about oil refineries. We are talking about fuels globally, right? But when you look at our organizational structure, it's quite inspiring to see the kind of female representation in the leadership roles. And I was personally amazed and quite puzzled as well, are there this many female leaders in the Chevron hierarchy? And just to quote an example, in the context of Chevron Lanka specifically, when you look at from our chairperson herself to the kind of representation that we have in our management team, actually gives one the confidence that there are no gender barriers for career progression at Chevron. Right. So I think those are some of the factors which have made me very comfortable as one of the employees working in Chevron. And apart from that, I think the flexible work arrangements, the technology that we have access to, and the empathy and the understanding of our leaders are what I really think make Chevron a safe and a secure place for all of us to be in.
Okay, thank you, Ashwara. I think that is inspiring to all our members, and also to Sri Lankan workforce as well. I'm going to come to you, Nirosha, and you know, what are the challenges personally that you have? You know, we spoke about some of them in your career before, but how has your employer, right, HNB, one of the largest private banks in Sri Lanka, you know, how has the bank supported you, and what are the other initiatives that the bank has in play to, you know, support other female employees as well?
Imran, to answer your question, like I think the most of the bankers who will be watching this, who are watching this, will agree with me, because we joined the bank as school leavers only with the secondary education level. Then when we climbed the ladder, we realized that we need some kind of professional qualification to be in par with the challenging environment. I think as a bank, like I can't say like when now our prerequisite for promotions is the banking exams, but bank always encourage its staff to get professionally qualified. They support us, they pay our subscriptions, and they value our commitment. So that they have actually shown that to me also, and I have been a branch manager throughout my career, and they moved me up to treasury back office, which was entirely a new area for me, and that was the turning point of my career and my education level. The studies, they sponsored me for my treasury exams, and in that way the bank is supporting, and they are like valuing their resources which is there in their hand, rather than like getting from outside. So in that way, I'm lucky to be part of Hatna family, because they have supported me during my career, because I have been only with HNB for the last 27 years. So I'm happy what I have got with HNB.
Thank you, Nirosha. And I think, but the banking sector is one of those where, you know, you've seen particularly, you know, females go up right to the top. You know, you have bank chairpersons, you have bank CEOs, and I think I'm looking at the new generation of bankers who are coming up, and I think there's a lot of hope, you know, in terms of that sector as well. Shanaka, you know, you mentioned some of the initiatives, you know, that WNS has implemented in terms of, you know, increasing gender inclusion and within its workforce. So within that context, you know, what are your views on glass ceilings, and are there glass ceilings at WNS?
All right, good question. I think if you look at from the word glass ceiling, is a very dangerous word. If you look at the ceiling, is always ceiling. We know that, you know, there's a ceiling, you can't go beyond that. But if you look at the glass ceiling, it's some sort of, you know, they show, but you can't go, right? So the visually you can't go, even physically you can't go like that. So it's like, you know, a very dangerous situation to have a glass ceiling in an organization, particularly when it comes to the career opportunities, right? So WNS, we can say that, you know, we are a very organization where we don't have any sort of glass ceiling at all when it comes to the female employee. Just to give you a good example, WNS has launched our own successful program we call Centurion program, where we select a group of people, especially female employees. Only this is for the female employees. The sponsorship is coming from our group CEO itself, saying that, you know, every year we select about 30 female employees who are at the level of assistant manager level, and they go through a vigorous program in terms of world leading universities as well as institutes, and they go through in terms of particularly we are taking them to the next level, and after 2 years of the program, once they graduate, they will become a assistant vice president level or a senior group manager in our category. They become that level. You can see how, as an organization, we're promoting this for our female employees. So that's one I can tell you. Second one, we have launched a program called She for She, right? She for She. That means in the event when a female employee leaves, particularly at the assistant manager level or a managerial level, we will make sure we hire the replacement only come as only a female employee. You can see that how we are as an organization looking after our female employees. So therefore, this program has been launched and very successful because we have a very direction saying that this program has to be there and it will be reviewed in terms of how many female employees has led the organization at the manager, assistant manager and above level, and the replacement. So it has to be 100%. So you can see how as an organization we promote our female employees. Also, another thing I just want to tell you about the glass ceiling. When you talk about every employee, especially we have a performance management, performance engagement program at organization, right? That is where we talk about our career growth and all the things. WNS is as a unique organization. We always very transparent and use a performance management, performance engagement with the employees to provide them a career opportunity and discuss with them what they want to be in the next 2 to 3 years time. So very rigorous and very transparent. And it's done not because of you're a male employee or a female employee. It doesn't matter, but it's all about that. This organization is all about that the right skill with the right talent that they have that's being given. And when it comes to we select people to go to work in our other countries, especially in the UK, US, we call them secondment opportunities. So currently we have almost about 50 people currently have been seconded to the special projects in other countries. And I can say more than 50% of them are female employees. They have been deployed. And when they want to go, most of the people will come and say, today I'm married, I can't leave my family, my child is going to the school, right? We have a policy itself, promoting, supporting, including the family visas, family accommodations, and support by the organization itself. And for them to go and, do a work in UK and US or a long period of time, and they get that exposure. Some people, they continue, they come back and come with a different, level and they come. So that's the level of, we can tell that the organization will talk about that. I don't think that I have heard a word called glass ceiling when it comes to in WNS for the last 17 years. So I'm proud to say we are an organization, we promote our female employees with empowerment as well as their career opportunities.
Thanks, Hanika. Thank you for that contribution. And I think you're in the talent industry, so employers, are always comparing what they can get from each of their employers in that business much more than some of the other industries. I'm going to come to a very interesting question, and it's open to the whole panel, and I want each of you to contribute, right? And this looks at from your own personal perspective and also from your organizational perspective as well. The last couple of years has been a very traumatic period for the world. I think we've gone through a pandemic that hopefully will be the only one in our lives, but it's been a tough period, for all of us. We may be remote working, but there's a mental and physical toll on that kind of exclusion for such a extended period of time. How have each one of you handled your personal mental health and well-being, and how has your organization supported you as well in this process as well? I mean, anyone can start and please contribute, because it's a very important topic going forward. It's only going to get more important, I think, as we go along.
So I'll start
please,
with that. Yes. In this pandemic situation, I'll give you a real example. So being in HR, before the pandemic situation, we had a lot of, when people are work from home, office, there are a lot of challenges are coming saying that, today I have a problem, my manager is not, providing support, I am not happy with the, the support I'm getting, the work is not being recognized, always the HR has a lot of problem to deal with the issue with regard to the employee and the manager, right? When people went back to the their work from home, we did not heard any of these issues came, okay, because they are work from home. But later we realized the employees having a lot of challenges when it comes to the meetings, because it's all virtual, right? Meeting, and they kind of able to manage the time, right? So there was now we are getting the complaints from the manager saying that employees are not, able to manage this. I'm talking about the first year of the pandemic, right? Like that. So what we did was we had all one-to-one connect with all, especially with the employees who are married, especially the female employees. We realized that when they work from home, not only they have to work for the office part, but also they have to work for the home and the children and everything, right? So what we have done, so we realized that issues they're coming in terms of the time management, because as everyone work from home, they know how things are happening, including myself, right? So what we have implemented, told them, them to work on a flexible work arrangement, right? Number one. Number two, also normally most of the organization, they emphasize people to switch on the cameras during the meetings, right? We said no need, right? You don't have to do that because they are not in a right, situation sometimes with the kids, right? Sometimes the noises are coming, kids are coming, they are not dressed appropriately sometimes. So we said that you don't have to do all the things. Continue as it is, as work from home. We understand that, and be very calm, and don't take any stress. In the event if you have any problem, let us know, and we give them in terms of almost 6 to 7 months for them to get used to the work from home situation. So that's one we did. And also people, most of the people, in terms of they want to take some personal assistance, especially when they work from home. We develop a program, deploy a program, employee assistant program with all 3 languages, with the highly confidential third party. We bought them because while work from home also, there are a lot of things can happen which we can't able to see. Particularly from the harassment can happen, particularly some, pressures will come, some long hours they need to work, right? So likewise, the second program we launched is the employee assistant program, all 3 languages, for them to reach out to anything that they want to do. So those are the couple of things that we have done during this time with regard to the change of work arrangement.
And your own personal mental health, Shanika? How have you handled that?
I came to office.
That's your solution. Right. Interesting perspective.
No, I think maintain. I think it's good time for us to balance the life. I thought that it's a blessing for us to work from home because we had a time to work with be with the family. They also realize how much important be with the family. I would say that time management, traveling time was saved. So I watched a lot of movies, be with the kids, right? A lot of time saved in that way. So exercise, going to the gym, at home with the kids, read a lot of books, things done. I think that's went very well.
Wonderful. Thank you for your contribution, Shanika, and I hope all these initiatives are successful going forward. The others, Nirosha?
Imran, as you said, last 2 years was really a difficult period. And now, as Shanika said, regarding work from home, for the Sri Lanka banking sector, I think the work from home is something new. But last 2 years, we managed to have the work from home facilities implemented. But mostly the branches, actually, it's difficult for them because they are facing customers. But for department like us, the head office departments, we can manage work from home. But to say the bank looked after us very well during the past 2 years. They arranged a lot of webinars with the medical specialists, and they arranged medical campaigns as well for vaccination. And even next Friday, they are going to have a booster vaccination campaign where all the head office or the branch staff can come and have their booster vaccinations in that way. And the other most important thing is when we talk about mental health, Imran, monetary wise also that affects the mental health. During the past 2 years, the bank didn't deduct any single cent from our salaries, and all the remunerations, all the allowances were paid on time, and no staff was laid off. That is a kind of a blessing what we got from HNB, and we have to be thankful to the bank regarding that. And when talking about the actions, actually, my small one was doing online classes, and my mother didn't allow me to stay at home. She wanted me to go to office because the child won't sit for the online classes when I'm around. Anyway, and that is also one reason for me to come to office. But the other thing is I didn't want to stay at home until all my staff gets the work from home facility. Because as the boss, I thought, when I can't be staying at home and ordering things while the staff is at office and during this pandemic time, taking a risk and coming to office and doing their job. So I make it a point that I'll take work from home facility last after everyone gets the connections. So that's my story in that.
Wonderful. I'm dealing with a panel of workaholics, which I think keeps going to during pandemics as well. Moise, what have you all done, and what have you done personally as well?
Okay, I'll start from the company standpoint. So, I mean, given that, we are an industry where people need to physically come and sew, the initial drive when the pandemic struck was how do we keep people safe? Because even the vaccination was not so successful at the initial stages in Sri Lanka. So, we started with how do we really bolster the health of our employees. With that, we started a campaign of healthy, keeping them healthy. For example, we started serving employees some herbal drinks such as Kotamali. We started handing out vitamin C tablets. We started serving a boiled egg, an additional boiled egg for every meal to all the employees. So these were things that were done, and of course the PCR test, which was even mandatory at that time. 20% of your employees per month. There was some standard of that sort that was implemented by the government, right? So all those things put together were done with the simple intention of keeping the employees safe. And of course, zoning of all our facilities, so that in case there's a positive case, you can just cut out that zone versus impacting the entire factory or the entire department. So we had zoning of employees, separate transport arrangements, made for each of the employees, made for the employees zone wise versus, total building or total facility wise. A lot of those initiatives that came into being, and, those initiatives also costed the company nearly $1 million. Now I would say about $500,000-$750,000, which heads to over 100 million rupees. So those are big costs, but we did not see them as a cost. We saw them as investments because we need to ensure that because the people were working hard towards catering to the ever-growing demand for apparel coming from the Western countries, right? So that was, I would say, the biggest thing that we did as an organization. Of course, I should add that in Africa, we may have heard from the media as well that the vaccination rates are very poor. But we ensured that our employees in Africa as well as in Sri Lanka have hit a vaccination rate of over 99%, right? So those are all the drives that we did as an organization to support the people. On a personal front, and this connects again to the organization as well. So I joined Hella a year and a half ago, which is right in the peak of the pandemic, just around the mid 2020. And whilst we have all accepted and embraced, that we are able to work remotely through Teams, etc., what we all tend to overlook is Teams is a good mode to exercise or rather to exhaust the goodwill that you have created over the years with existing colleagues, existing friends. But you cannot create new goodwill through Teams. So when you join an organization in the midst of this whole pandemic, which is what I did, I had to get to know people through Teams, remotely, etc. And what I found was I saw Hella investing some extra, a few simple things, just to give me more face time, right, to the organization through various Teams forums, etc. It was all about letting the people see me more, so that everyone gets more accustomed to this new person who has joined. Right, so those are little things that anyone can do. It doesn't require policies or high-level thinking. It's just little initiatives that an organization can drive, and I found that very helpful because I'm just reiterating. Teams, remote working are good ways of exhausting goodwill that you already created, but you can't create new relationships, new goodwill on Teams. Right, so it's something that we need to all be aware of, and that takes me to my last point, which is where when the pandemic started and remote working kicked off, it was a frenzy of Teams and Zoom calls. No one knew how to really strike the balance. No one knew the protocols to keep Teams meetings efficient, to keep them productive. What are the etiquettes of Teams meetings? We didn't know all of that. And now we're really evolving, or we have almost landed on a sweet spot where we can strike a balance, right? Which is what's most interesting. Now we have the option of doing both. Right, and we have the learnings, the protocols, the etiquettes that we have picked up over the past 2 years on how we can do both productively and how we can optimize both in the best possible way. Now, I'll just share one more example, then I'll wrap it up. I do a lot of my one-on-ones on Teams. Right, reason being, when you meet someone in person, you got to have the mask on. Right, but in Teams, you can have a face-to-face where body language is more than 50% of the conversation. So a lot of my one-on-ones with my team members, which I, as a practice, do every quarterly, right? I have it now on Teams more often than not, because I find that to be much more effective if I can see the person's entire face and expressions versus doing it physically face to face, and there's a mask, that's coming in the way. So it's a mix of what the organization can do and what you yourself can do to adapt, right? And I think what the pandemic has taught us is that there is a sweet balance that we can all strike, to get to the most optimal and productive levels and achieve the right work-life balance. Yeah, so that would be from my side.
Interesting. And again, I come to you in terms of your own personal mental health and well-being. What have you done differently than you have done in the past to keep yourself sane and healthy?
Okay, so I've always been someone who exercises all the time, and that did not change except for during the curfew periods, where I had to unfortunately resort to an indoor treadmill at home, which I don't enjoy. I always prefer an outdoor jog or something like that. So other than the curfew times, I just continued with that same routine. And Netflix has been a lifesaver for sure. I don't think anyone would deny that. And I'm a foodie. I love good food. So you could indulge more on that as well post pandemic. Uber has been at its best. So many new caterers, so many new options and cuisines out there. So all put together, this is what I've done to keep my sanity. And I try to always keep things in context. I mean, I don't for a moment discount the significance and the magnitude of the pandemic and and COVID-19. But what I always say is, historically, 600,000 people die per year of diarrhea in South Asia, right? So many people die of dengue. In the Western Hemisphere, people die of the common flu during winter times, in hundreds per day, right? So this is the pandemic. It's something that should be taken seriously. But the worst thing you can do is panic about it. And my common joke is in the last almost 2 years now, Sri Lanka has spent maybe 3 to 4 months in lockdown and 18 months worrying about the lockdowns, right? So when the lockdown happens, just face it and deal with it. It is what it is, get on with it. But before and after the lockdowns, don't be anxious and panic about an imminent lockdown. Yeah, so I just keep things in context that way and in perspective.
Wonderful perspective. Yashara, how have you handled your mental health, and how has your organization helped in the whole process as well?
Well, Imran, I think we heard a lot from Shanaka Moise and Nirosha, right? If you look at Chevron Lubricants Lanka PLC, we are the market leader in the lubricants industry in Sri Lanka, and I believe we have continued to maintain that position even throughout the pandemic, despite all the headwinds that we have encountered during these 2 years, right? Although I say that we have been able to manage, it's not with ease, right? We have had our own challenges, but I think as an organization, all these, the insights that Shanaka, Moise, as well as Nirosha shared. I mean, as an organization, we did follow those as well, follow those protocols to ensure the safety of all our employees, because we do have a lubricant manufacturing plant located in Sapugaskanda, and that had to run despite the pandemic, despite the lockdowns, all of those restrictions, because we are an organization which provides lubricants to certain government institutions as well, like the military, and the Sri Lanka Transport Board, Sri Lanka Railways. So we had to continue our supplies to those institutes, and therefore we did, of course, prioritize the safety of our employees. So I don't really want to go into things that we did specifically during the pandemic, but I really want to speak about a couple of things that we have always had, because that's how Chevron has actually, I believe, prioritized the well-being, mental health and well-being in general of all its staff, right? Now we hear about a lot of organizations implementing counseling services, advisory support sort of services, especially during leave alone the last 2 years, but last decade or so, right? But Chevron has had this program called Chevron Global Employee Assistance and Work-Life Services, which has been there with Chevron for the past 52 years. So it's a service, it's a program that has been there assisting employees, their family members, as well as retirees worldwide for the past 52 years. So, if you have any issues with your family, your personal life, your relationships, and even being a global organization, we have a lot of international assignments that individuals take up. So there can be natural challenges of coping up with those assignments as well. So if you need assistance in terms of adjusting to those international assignments, then you could reach out to Chevron Global Employee Assistance and Work Life Services as well. And not only that, even if you have some issues at work, whether it be with your superiors, your peers, or your juniors, you could reach out to them and they could assist you. As well as if you have any issues with your own alcohol or drug abuse usage or anyone else's, then you could reach out to them for those kind of services as well. So I think what's important is that this service has always been there. Of course, from the data that I hear, the usage of that service by employees have increased significantly during the pandemic. Right? And Chevron has coped up to keep up with that demand as well. But there's just one particular thing, Imran, that I really want to speak about, which I found quite fascinating from the time that I joined Chevron. And I have worked for several multinational organizations in the country, and I haven't seen any of them having this fascinating tool, I would like to call. Right? This is called RSI Guard, and what it stands for is Repetitive Stress Injuries Guard. Right? Repetitive stress injuries prevention guard. And what it essentially does is it's a software that's embedded into our computers, and that software monitors our usage of computer screen, our usage of the keypad and the mouse, and it prompts breaks. Right, and those breaks can last from about 30 seconds to 10 to 15 minutes at one point, at any given point during the day, because it again depends on the intensity of the workload that you may be handling on a given day. You can of course choose to skip those breaks, right? But your break compliance data would be recorded and will be shared with your supervisor. So if you're not taking enough breaks, because Chevron identifies that especially for office-based employees, stress injuries are the most damaging damaging elements, right? You can really be really vulnerable to the stress injuries. So that's why those data about your break compliance are shared with your supervisor, and your supervisor is inclined to investigate and identify why you're not taking breaks. Right. So I think that just shows the kind of importance that Chevron has given on the overall, mental health and well-being of employees, because it's not just, the break, that you take a break or a stretch break, because it naturally affects your mental health as well. Sometimes when we skip breaks, you're given micro breaks, you're prompted micro breaks, and what these said in those micro breaks are quite interesting, right? There are certain messages that gets popped up saying, remember to breathe. And I think those, like you called us workaholics, which whether we like to admit it or not, we may be. And I think sometimes we really forget that we are breathing, right? Just taking a few deep breaths really help us at certain times during the day. So I think that's just another interesting tool that I have found at Chevron, which has helped us all throughout, not just during the pandemic, but throughout.
Okay, and from a personal perspective, what steps have you taken for your mental and well-being as well?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm a big fan of Netflix as well, and I think Shanika and Moise talked about that. So I don't want to go into that, but Imran, personally, I believe that mental health and well-being is something that you need to be thinking about every day. That's something that you need to inbuild into your daily plan, your daily lifestyle. While I of course applaud those who have a very strict workout schedule and a regular self-care routine, I personally believe what really helps me is that there are little things which which I would like to call as acts of self-love, which I try to sort of find and enjoy on a regular basis. Like those are little things and little joys in life, right? For example, when I have had an exhausting day, I would like to treat myself to a nice relaxing bath and enjoy that, right? And because I love to cook, once in a while I like to just try out a new dish and enjoy that. So these are little things which you can identify and enjoy, which can I don't know, personally for me, those have helped me build a very or create a cheerful attitude towards life in general, and has really helped me create a positive energy, right? And just to quote an example, as much as possible, when I stand in a queue, I try not to get irritated by the fact that I got to stand in a queue, because no matter what, if you got to stand in a queue, you got to stand in a queue, right? So instead, I mean, I don't know what others may think, but I try to look around, observe my surroundings and enjoy my surrounding during that moment, right? No point getting frustrated and irritated. So I think it's all in your control. I think you need to be able to identify a mechanism, a unique mechanism that works for you. So this is what has really worked for me. I try to find little joys in life on a regular basis.
Wonderful. And I think what I have heard about from the panel is that we have been invited to come to both Moises and Yashura's place for food. And I'm sure that we're going to get to watch a Netflix movie when we are there as well. We're running out of time, but I want to quickly, conclude by looking at the future. And I have a very quick question for each one of you. I would implore you to stick to about 30 seconds or even a minute in terms of finishing off as well. I just want to look at from your personal perspective and also from your company's perspective, where are we going with all these initiatives that we have undertaken, to create inclusivity. I'll start off with from a very personal perspective. Nirosha, you've become an ACCA member at a very late stage of, not I would say very late, but a later stage in your life than a normal person would. How is the qualification helping you in your career, and where do you think it'll take you going forward?
Yeah, Imran, I think there's a saying that difficult roads often lead to beautiful destinations, and I'm there I'm experiencing the beauty of the destination now, because ACCA has built confidence and enhanced my knowledge, and given us a lot of opportunities to enhance our skills further. So I'm actually currently reading for my master's with University of London, because through the ACCA pathway. So I'm really happy, and it's an amazing journey, I would say. And ACCA is really good and helping me a lot with my day-to-day operations as well.
Wonderful. It's wonderful to hear that, Nirosha, and we wish you all the very best actually for the rest of your career, and it looks like hopefully a very long career and as well. I'll come to you, Moise. You recently listed as well, so all of us are shareholders of your company, including myself, and we are looking. I think the country itself, apparel is a big employer and plays a very important part of export revenues as well. How have all these initiatives? Where do you see these initiatives leading Hella in terms of more inclusivity and in terms of closing the gender balance as well?
Okay, first of all, thank you for investing the Hella shares at the IPO. I mean, given that we are part of the apparel supply chain, right? But at the end of the day, we need to be conscious of what the end consumer wants, not just a retailer who's buying from us. I mean, the retailer is in turn also very conscious about what the end consumer wants. And since we are a critical part of their supply chain, we also need to have the same level of alertness and consciousness towards that. So UN ESG the UN goals also just feed into that agenda, right? Be it from an environmental standpoint, or from an inclusivity standpoint, or from a sustainability standpoint, right? There are things such as ESG as well, which are out there, right? So from all those different angles, we see the end consumer wanting more and more transparency, more visibility on the whole supply chain, insisting on certain minimum standards to be maintained, right? And that's the same feedback that we hear from our buyers, who's the retailer. And in many instances, we have to see it ourselves so that we prepare for it upfront versus being reactive about it. Now, for example, I mentioned earlier in the conversation about Hella expanding its footprint into Tanzania. So Tanzania is a very rich source for organic cotton. The country is a very rich source of organic cotton. And that's one of the reasons that we've expanded over there, because we can also tap into that resource. It was not just a proposition of finding additional capacity, right? So that's just one example, but in so many different lines of everything that we do, from sourcing to manufacturing, we need to look at all these angles which finally come back to the UN goals itself that have been set out. And given that we are part of the supply chain, that finally feeds into the consumer, who's becoming more and more socially conscious by the generation. Gen X not so much, but Gen Y, Gen Z especially, very conscious, very particular, so demanding, wanting things to be done more transparently. It's something that we have to definitely fast evolve into. And it starts off with, really investing the awareness knowledge within the organization and getting the right talent pool. Either you recruit them or you make sure you engage with the right consultants and veterans within these different spheres who can come and impart all the knowledge onto our teams. Yeah, so that would be my answer as to how Hella is taking things forward along these lines.
Thank you, Moiz, and all the best for all of your initiatives as well. Shanaka, what is the future hold for WNS?
All right. I think we have seen very, high growth, accelerated growth in recent past. If you look at from WNS, we have increased our headcount by almost 61% in the last 2 years. That's one. Second one, if you look at, always Sri Lanka has been considered as a like a second destination, likewise. But today, WNS, I think we are looking at more of like a strategic location rather than the BCP location, with considering all the things that are happening, all the challenges globally happening, especially in India and others. So we want to become, one of the leading international location for WNS Global, and also to build our talent pipeline towards our expected growth that is going to happen. So that's, I think we are all planning for that. I think with the support that we're getting as an ACC, as an approved platinum partner, that status also will help us in terms of to attract a lot of talent that we're looking at.
Thank you, Shanaka, and all the very best to WNS as a big employer of finance professionals. Your success is the success of all finance professionals in Sri Lanka as well. I'd like to leave the last word to you, Ashura. What more can we do, to break the glass ceiling, within the corporate sector and within the country itself?
Imran, I think Shanaka gave a good definition of what the glass ceiling is earlier, right? In my opinion, Imran, I think the glass ceiling has already started experiencing a few cracks during the recent time, right? And that's thanks to all these courageous women who are coming forward to share their experiences and proposals for improvements in that arena. And I think witnessing the amount of increasing number of women who are taking leadership roles, especially in professional environments, I believe most of the female workforce have actually taken inspiration to establish themselves in the industries they work in. I think Nirosha's case is a good example in that context, right? It's a testament of that fact. And I think she talked about the kind of support that her superiors have given, the kind of inspiration that she has got from them. I think that's what we really need, right? Those of us, those women who have actually managed to reach to the top of their career peaks, should actually make it a point to share their experiences in terms of how they have kind of obstacles they have encountered, how they have overcome those obstacles, as well as certain career tips with freshers and starters, so that they would be inspired to reach greater heights. Right. I think, and I also think that increased usage of social media could also be used as an effective tool to share those inspiring stories and the journeys of successful women in the Sri Lankan workforce. So I think that's what we need to do. Like, it's just one small step at a time. If we can find that common ground and start supporting each other, I believe more women would be made aware of their true potential and the heights that are reachable by them. And then easier it would be to bring down that glass ceiling altogether one day.
Thank you, Ashura, for your sentiments. Once again, I would like to really thank all four of you for valuable contribution, because I think once the video of this panel discussion goes out, I think there'll be conversations that will be had by the people that need to be inspired, and also decision makers for the kind of decisions that they need to make as well. So once again, I'd like to thank Ashura, Nirosha, Moiz, and Shanaka for your time. time is the most precious resource in today's world. I know there are a lot of conflicting priorities for you. So thank you for spending your time in this ACCA International Women's Day panel discussion. And for those who are tuning in, the viewer, thank you so much for your time as well for watching this panel discussion. Don't forget to head over to the ACCA website. It has some very interesting thought leadership pieces which keep getting regularly updated on different topics, not just SDGs and particularly SDG 5, but I think so many other technical topics as well that will be of help to the budding finance professional. All the very best for all of your careers, and don't forget to tune in to another ACCA webinar as well. Thank you and have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much, Imran. All the best.
Thanks, Imran. Thank you, Barry. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Imran.
you, Imran.